So this Instagram story from Caitlin Clark dropped. Some fans thought it was a hint, a comeback signal, that maybe, just maybe, she'd return deeper in the playoffs. Others read it as frustration, Caitlin firing a subtle shot at the Fever organization for shelving her season early. But the loudest reaction? A wave of fans and analysts saying, this is it. This is the moment where Caitlin skips the downtime and steps straight into Unrivaled. The idea took off fast. After being forced to sit for months, Clark would be craving playing time. And to be fair, there are plenty of reasons why she could do it and why some people would really want it to happen. But here's the truth.
No way. Not this time.
She's not doing it. And the reason she won't, and why she's way more likely to choose another path, is actually right under our noses. This is a short video, so stick around till the end. You'll feel relieved that Caitlin Clark isn't jumping into Unrivaled and excited about what's next, because what she's more likely to do is way better. But first, hit that like button if you believe Caitlin will step on the court again before the 2026 WNBA season. All right, so let's break down the logic for Caitlin Clark playing in Unrivaled.
Now, how could an injury like this be prevented? Believe it or not, one way could actually be playing in Unrivaled. And not because Unrivaled is fun to watch, just because Unrivaled is an actual development league and it could get her into game shape so that when she does go into the WNBA, there isn't as much of like a shock about getting in and playing against all the competitors because, you know, she's definitely a target out there.
On the surface, the Unrivaled idea does make sense. There's no way Caitlin Clark heads into next season, whenever that even starts, completely cold. 8, maybe 9 months without competitive basketball? That's not realistic. Last year, the extended break may have helped her mentally reset, but from a conditioning standpoint, from a rhythm standpoint, she's going to need to play something. And Unrivaled does check a lot of boxes. It's short-term, it's centralized in one location, it runs just a few months, and the payout, potentially massive, especially now, because Unrivaled just locked down a B-round funding at a jaw-dropping $340 million valuation. That's not small-time money. That's, we're ready to make a splash money. And with that kind of cash on hand, it's hard not to think they'll try to throw a bag at Caitlin Clark.
Now, maybe they didn't have it last year, but now they have deep enough pockets. They have a well that they could go to, reach in that well, pull out a big bag of money, and finally approach the big dog with a real contract. Finally approach the big dog with a real offer. Yeah, that 1 million, 2 million, 5%, that's nothing compared to what they're going to offer CC now.
And honestly, if there's no CBA in place, I do think Unrivaled makes a play for Caitlin. Because imagine it, if they land her and let her effect take over, suddenly their ratings skyrocket. Sponsors flood in, revenues explode, and Unrivaled starts looking like a billion-dollar league, one that, if it ever flipped to 5-on-5, could actually compete with the WNBA. Remember, analysts estimated Caitlin alone was worth $1 billion to the WNBA this season if healthy. And right now, the WNBA as a whole is valued at just $3.5 billion, but only because team values more than doubled since Caitlin arrived. So yeah, Unrivaled with Caitlin Clark? We're talking full arenas. Not that COVID bubble look from last year. We're talking a massive payday and a ton of equity. And don't forget, she already turned down millions from Ice Cube's Big Three, so you know the number here would have to be enormous. But here's where the fantasy stops, because as tempting as this sounds, Caitlin Clark is not going to play in Unrivaled. And here's why. First, it's 3-on-3. That format is brutal on the body. Last season, we saw players dropping left and right, teams even forfeiting games because of injuries. Sure, it builds cardio, but the risk isn't worth it. Second, it's the same cast of characters who rough her up in the WNBA. You think those players are suddenly going to protect Caitlin just because they've got equity in the league? Not a chance. Third, the CBA mess. Make no mistake, Unrivaled is part of the negotiations. The WNBA does not want players joining it. And you've got Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier in this awkward double role, running the league while also representing the players' union in talks. That's a massive conflict of interest. And Caitlin? She's not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And fourth, branding. Caitlin Clark's entire brand is about prestige, championships, playing at the highest level, no gimmicks, no sideshows. She literally turned down a 3-on-3 spot in the Olympics, the biggest stage in sports. And sure, some people said it was about fatigue after the nonstop college to WNBA grind, but let's be real. If she'd been offered a 5-on-5 Team USA spot, she would have taken it in a heartbeat. She didn't want the sideshow. And that's the exact same logic here. Playing in Unrivaled would dilute her brand, which brings us to the real story. And to me, this is where it gets interesting, because the branding piece is the key. And if you connect the dots, you see what Caitlyn is more likely to do instead. Let's talk about Nike. Finally, Nike got off their butts and launched her signature logo. And all signs point to a shoe release in May 2026, right as the WNBA season tips off. Now, I haven't loved how slow Nike has been with her rollout. They clearly felt pressure to let A'ja Wilson's shoe sell first and not embarrass her by selling Caitlyn's right after. But now, the runway is clear. Nike can and will go all in on Caitlyn. And remember, Caitlyn Clark is not just an Iowa icon or a WNBA star, she's a global brand. And so is Nike. So what's the perfect way to ramp up Caitlyn Clark fever during the offseason? Europe. 5-on-5 basketball at the highest level. Teams stacked with WNBA all-stars. Fenerbahce alone has had players like Gabby Williams, Jonquel Jones, Emma Messiman, Dominique Malonga, no scrubs. Picture it, Nike hyping up Caitlyn Clark across Europe. Billboards, Caitlyn was here campaigns in every city she plays. And on the court, she's getting reps, staying in rhythm, and building hype for her WNBA return. It's clean. It avoids the CBA mess. It's prestigious. And it lines up perfectly with Nike's global marketing machine. Think about Ronaldo in Saudi Arabia, Messi in Miami, Beckham in LA. Caitlyn wouldn't hit that exact paycheck, but the model is the same. Take your brand global and let the hype come back with you. And if you're the WNBA, that's a dream. A healthy Caitlyn Clark, now an even bigger global star, launching her signature shoe right as the season tips off. That means more eyeballs on the W from outside the US. Now, there's one more angle here that could be even bigger and better.
I still think the Caitlyn Clark Tour, the Caitlyn Clark World Tour, might be the best option, as in, she plays 5v5, she brings a team of 12 WNBA players, and they do 2 3-week tours, which means they might get in 3 weeks, 21 days, they play 6 games. They play a game every 3 days in different cities around Europe, and then they take a break, then they do a tour of Australia and China. They play against all the top EuroLeague teams. They play against all the top teams in the NBL and all the top teams in the WCBA.
This is even more niche, even more on brand. Something she would own, she would control, and something that, once again, would take her brand to another level. Because let's be real, it's all anyone would talk about. Remember when Caitlyn squared off against that Brazilian team in the preseason, and 1.3 million people tuned in to watch an exhibition game? That's the Caitlyn effect. Fans would line up, pay real money, and tune in worldwide just to watch her play. And that's the point. She doesn't need Unrivaled. She doesn't even need Europe, if she doesn't want it. She's got the brand equity to create whatever she wants, even if that's just a handful of exhibitions, her games, on her terms, without the commitment of an entire season. So when you step back and look at her decisions, her brand, and the facts in front of us, the Unrivaled fantasy ends right here. It's not happening. But now I want to hear from you. Do you agree? Do you think Caitlyn might shock us, or did I miss something? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Either way, one thing feels inevitable. We're getting Caitlyn Clark basketball in early 2026. And when it happens, it's going to be a beautiful sight.